All right, so women get the right to vote. It changes the world, right? It doesn't. How come? Usually in class we sit and think about this for a while, like why doesn't it like make all like this huge difference that we expected it to? There's a handful of things we can think about. So the first thing to think about is women get the right to vote in World War One, and at the end of World War One, and this war like knocks us out. It kills tens of millions of people. In 1918, there's an influenza epidemic that in the United States kills 700,000 people alone. So more people die of the influenza epidemic in 1918 than died of the Civil War. And that's just the influenza epidemic. And there's also, the 100,000 or so men that died fighting in the war. So when this war ends, everybody's just done. They don't want to have anything to do with anybody else in the world. All of the nations, it's called isolationism. They all retreat, and that's when women get the right to vote. When everybody's just like, who cares? We could all die tomorrow, so we're going to eat, drink, and be merry, which is going to lead us to the 1920s. So unfortunately, women get the right to vote right when there's a downshift in voter participation. The other thing to think about is the argument is that women will vote like their husbands, and this isn't necessarily true. But what is true is people tend to vote according to their race and their class. And in this point, and it's in many places in the United States, it's illegal to actually even marry outside of your race or class, outside of your race. And so, in that way, women are voting like their husbands. And so, you won't see that shift. And, this still exists today. I'm not saying that women should vote for candidates because they're women, but in light of many of the things that was said in the 2016 election campaign by the current president, it was surprising that 52 to 53% of white women would vote for a candidate that publicly bragged about assaulting women. Yet 98% of black women voted for Hillary and 69% of Latino women voted for her. And so that suggests a difference according to class and race in which women are voting for candidates. And race and class are obviously distinct, but often in our country they're connected. And then the other thing to think about when women get the right to vote is they have no other political currency. You have the right to vote, but they just said it's just Jana Rankin serving in Congress. And so this is what's going to lead Alice Paul to want to create the Equal Rights Amendment. It would be an amendment to the Constitution that would argue that equality of the rights shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or any state on account of sex. That you have to treat the sexes equally under the law. And she will introduce that into Congress in 1923. And she will return to Congress or try to get it introduced into Congress every single year until 1972. And we'll come back to the ERA in the 1970s and pick up that story then. But I wanted you to have a sense of its history when we get to it, and also connect it to Alice Paul, who worked towards us giving us the right to vote. One other fun story I just wanted to share with you is when Wilson is elected for his second term, the way he gets elected is because women had the right to vote in Western states. They voted for him because he had kept us out of the war, and so it's ironic that he actually got the presidency for a second term because women in Western states could vote for him because he kept us out of the war, because he didn't initially support women's suffrage. And then the other thing to think about, and I should have mentioned this in the earlier video, is when we enter the war, he says we're entering the war to make the world safe for democracy. So when we play off that idea of, oh yeah, democracy, like what's that look like? We don't have that. And then the last kind of fun fact about Wilson is he will try to get a League of Nations created. Basically, it's a precursor to the UN. I'll talk more about this in History 1, History 8. And it doesn't work, again, because everybody's just like, I don't want to have anything to do with, the rest of the world. And he'll have a stroke. Many people think it's because he was so tirelessly trying to get this added, approved. And his wife, actually, Edith, will kind of take over the last several months of his presidency. And most historians today think that she's actually kind of running the show, and he should have actually stepped down. He was completely incapacitated. And so maybe we have had a woman president, just not officially. Kind of a fun thing to think about. Although Edith did not support women's suffrage, so it's not like she's, maybe one that we'd want to rally around. Okay, if you have any questions, you can leave those in the discussion board module. Take care.